Uganda's political terrain is becoming unpredictable by the day. Opposition politicians are complaining of a shrinking political space within which to sell their ideas. Analysts say the road to 2021 general election will be rough and tough. Fortnight is the man in the eye of the political storm, Dr. Besigye. Dr. Besigye, thank you very much for honoring our invitation. You are on the spot.
Thank you very much, Patrick. It's always a pleasure to be here on NTV's On the Spot. And a very good evening to all the viewers out there and all those who are following this program.
Dr. Besigye, I am not going to mince my words in this program because I just want to take you back as a journalist because I've been watching you, what you've been doing. We have seen you for the last decade in running battles with the police and the military. It's almost like a known handbook of Dr. Besigye that they will be running battles with the military and the police, and that has not resulted in any change. The status quo has remained the same. Dr. Besigye, your modus operandi is not working.
Yes, and I think especially for you journalists, it's important that living in a country like Uganda, where no political change has ever happened peacefully in its entire history, it's important that you familiarize yourselves with how struggles happen and how struggles cause change. In a struggle, there are many campaigns, and struggles can take a lot of time, a long time. And so you have a war, which is the whole stretch from beginning to the end, and you have battles within the war. And for the war to end, you'll fight very many battles. Some you will win, some you will lose, some you may be even, and so on. But it doesn't mean that if you win a battle, the war has ended. It doesn't mean that if you lose a battle, the war has been lost. No. And so the question is, what is the objective of the war? What is the strategy for fighting and winning the war? And what are the tactical applications? What are how do you fight the battles? Because you can fight different battles, but all aimed at winning the war. For example, when we were fighting the war of 1980, we lost quite a number of battles. And, eventually we won the war. It took 5 years. It did not take a night. Some wars have taken 20 years, 30 years. Doesn't mean that they have lost the war. So the critical thing for Ugandans to observe is that the struggle we are engaged in, which you are attributing, which you are now gauging and judging according to my limited time of engagement, because the period you are concerned about is the last 20 years. Uganda has been captive for more than 100 years, close to 130 years. Uganda has been captive, controlled by guns, first by guns of foreigners, second by locals that inherited the guns.
I have seen repeated actions of Dr. Besigye. Police comes to your home, they incarcerate you there. Sometimes you elude them, you come to town, maybe they tear gas you, maybe they just break your car, they tow you, you are arrested, taken to Nagalama. Is becoming the Dr. Besigye's kind of handbook.
So what I'm telling you is that, yes, there will be many battles. Many battles. There will be many campaigns also. Again, some people have been saying, you know, you brought to Erwaneko, you brought to Valemese, you brought to, I don't know, walk to work, you brought this, they have not worked. Yes, in a war, there are always, in any war, there are always many campaigns. And how you name them is just a naming. But there are campaigns within a war. For example, when there was a war against Kony, you had Operation
Iron Fist.
No, Iron Fist. You had Operation Thunder. What was it?
Yes.
Something Thunder, Iron Thunder, I don't know what. You had Operation Fagia. You had Operation... There are many operations. Some succeeded, some failed. But you remember when they captured the Konye's Kaunda suit? That was Operation Thunderbolt or something. It didn't succeed. But eventually, the war against Kony was won. So, you should understand that our struggle, and first of all, it's not a Besigye struggle, for heaven's sake. It's a struggle of the people of Uganda. I'm only one of the actors, of the recent actors. There have been actors
Besigye,
before
I just
me.
want to look at how you are naming your struggles. You have launched many campaigns, including Tubalemese campaign.
Yes.
Now, you have Turwaneko campaign.
Yes.
Do you expect the NRM government, the NRM-led government, with those people who maybe are benefiting from it, to stand by and watch Dr. Besigye launch his Tubalemese? No, they will not. They will get everything within their powers, throw it at you to stop you. Because the word Tubalemese itself is just, you know, provoking them to fight back.
Yes. And we expect them to fight. Our intention is...
So you're naming defiance. Tubalemese is calling them to fight back.
Yes,
because
you see, we are not begging. We are fighting. This is not it's not something that we talk about, you know, shy, in a shy way. We are fighting. It's an intense struggle. We are fighting so that few people that control the power of the people of Uganda, your power, the few people that control your power, you have no power over your wealth, you yourself. You have no power over decision making in this country. You don't have.
But this fight of yours, just yesterday, let me ask my producer to together with our viewers to take us back to Nkireka, where you were on Monday, the kind of fight that you're talking about. It could have resulted in something calamitous, not only for you, but even for the country. If, God forbid, you had gone on the tarmac. Okay, you know, a powerful water cannon with such velocity could have put you on the tarmac. And God forbid, that could have resulted in something calamitous, not only for you and your family, but for the entire country. Do you sometimes think through the decisions you make?
So let's first make the ground setting of what we are talking about clear. Who are the protagonists in this struggle? It's not Besigye versus so and so.
But you have just told them to Tubalemese. You have just blocked an international transit route, a major route leading into a capital city.
Yes.
Any sane government is not going to accept. They will stop you, Dr. Besigye.
So let's deal with one matter after another. First, what is the struggle at hand? Is the struggle at hand a Besigye versus Museveni? Is it a Besigye versus NRM? Is it a Besigye versus anybody? No. The struggle at hand, as I have told you, is the people of Uganda, citizens of Uganda, versus the dictators of Uganda, versus those who have held them captive. And those who have held them captive are beyond what is holding us captive now. Even before the Museveni regime, Uganda was captive. Ugandans don't have the right to decide for themselves. What took Mr. Museveni to the bush? Because don't forget where this government came from. You are talking about a water cannon. In 1980s, it was not water cannon. It was cannons of explosives. It was cannons of bombs. It was much more violent. It was much worse. What brought Museveni to power were bombs. 500,000 people were killed. So first understand what it is that we are dealing with. We are dealing with a captive population. A population that is totally marginalized, whose resources are controlled by a few people who use our resources as they want. We are talking about people that are condemned to ghettos. People don't live in ghettos because they like. They live in ghettos because their wealth, their rights have been usurped and taken by a few people. So we are talking about the people that have no rights, have no welfare, have no social services, that are fighting to regain, to reclaim their rights, to reclaim their power, to reclaim control over their wealth. That is the struggle we are talking about. Besigye, the one you are referring to, is just a temporary actor in that struggle. How is this struggle? So the second question, how is this struggle fought? This struggle can be fought either like Museveni fought, take guns and fight with guns. We have chosen to fight non-violently. In other words, to fight without using arms. That's our choice. But we are fighting very violent people. We are fighting armed people. And we know it. So the struggle is to demonstrate to them that people without arms are stronger and superior to few people with guns. That is the struggle. And for that struggle to succeed, those who have no guns but want to subdue those with guns are going to pass through some tricky situations like we are passing through. Now, why? So first of all, if you followed what happened on Monday, we never blocked any road. And your cameras were there, so I hope you looked at your own footage. We were blocked from going to a venue that we booked formally, paid for, that is, we notified the police about, a venue that had no problem at all, was away from Kampala. They could not accuse us for disturbing business or disturbing schools or disturbing anybody. It was a secluded place that we booked and paid for, notified the police where we wanted to have a meeting. We found this venue blocked off. We did not contest. We did not fight. We said, okay, let's go back to Najanankumbi. And we were on our way to Najanankumbi. On reaching below Kireka, if you followed what was on the footage, the soldiers lined up across the road. The only way we could have proceeded was to drive over them. So we had to stop. As soon as we stopped, they brought their trucks and parked their trucks across the road. So we never obstructed any traffic. The police itself obstructed traffic. Having done so, then they brought this cannon and violently attacked me. Yes, they could have killed me. And yes, I know every day that I get out of my house that I have a risk of being killed. Why? Because I want to cause change and take away the power, the wealth that they control from their hands. So they will fight, and I know it.
So now, if you decide to walk from Kireka to Najanankumbi, you as Dr. Kizza Besigye, you know you'll not even reach anywhere near Banda before a mammoth gathering has come to follow you. You know that will happen, and the road will be disrupted. And that road, you have people who are making a living, getting their livelihoods on that road. You have ambulances taking patients. You have people going for job interviews. You have people who are trying to survive. So they will be disrupted.
So I hope you are now not saying that I shouldn't have gone to the venue that we had booked, because that's where it begins. We booked, paid for a venue, and we had a meeting there. Should I have gone there or shouldn't I have gone there? Having gone there, if I am blocked, should I have remained there or should I have retreated? So you see, what the police is doing is not defendable, is not excusable at all. And that's, you know, when I have been pulled out of radio stations, whom was I blocking? Whose business was I disrupting? Or you don't know that I have been thrown out of radio stations simply because I want to talk. So the war, what is happening here, understand, the Makerere students who were brutalized, who are still being brutalized even as we talk for now more than 2 weeks, what was their crime? Whom were they obstructing? The girls who started saying the fees is too much. Your journalists, who the other day were saying we are fed up with being brutalized by police. Journalists, you know, whom were they offending by saying please don't brutalize us?
So now,
and they are brutalized for saying don't brutalize us.
So now, I get you there, but you have done the same thing for the last 10 years. You are beaten.
So
you are tear gassed. You are incarcerated in Nagalama. You're released. You go home and you come back.
No, but you see,
do we see increasingly that what you are doing is giving us some kind of change?
Yes, yes.
Or we see like the biblical Pharaoh,
yes,
who is being hardened.
First of all, you know, I would like to dissuade you journalists who live here, who are citizens, who are part of the problem that we are all living, to ask as if you are foreign or as if you are standing somewhere on Mars, because you live the same life we live, you suffer the same humiliation that all other citizens suffer. If you do, and you are not part of those who are causing the humiliation on others, then you would like to get out of that humiliation. So if what I am doing is not working, I would expect you as a citizen to look for something which works. Because I don't have the monopoly of ideas or action. If Ugandans feel that what I am doing is not helpful, will not achieve the objective, I have not tied anybody's hands or mouth to provide alternative solutions and to pursue them. Whom have I stopped? But understand that a struggle passes through certain processes. I have over and over described what the processes through which our struggle will pass, because this is a struggle for liberation. By the way, the British who captured us first and created Uganda, because Uganda was not a country, who destroyed our naturally evolving states and created an artificial one called Uganda, the British. They ruled us for 70 years. They ruled your ancestors for 70 years. And they were not even 100 people who were here controlling our millions for that long. So, were all our ancestors stupid? No. Weren't they doing something about it? Of course not. They were doing a lot to change that. But it took them 70 years to cause a change that retired the British rule. 70 years. Now, of course there was confusion when the British left. People thought that they had got independence and that things were going to change for the better. it has, you know, and they have lived from one hope to another. So our struggle, I want you to understand, has three components. One is to rationalize what has happened to us all these years so that we are all on the same page of what the problem is. Because we understand the problem differently.
Dr. Besigye, you know, I want to look back at the other struggles, including the one you got involved in the Bush War. And I want also to, you know, re-echo the words I've heard from your quarters. People saying that, you know, the political terrain in Uganda is not leveled. And I believe it is not leveled. And you know what? It's not going to get leveled for you. More than 30 years ago, the ground was not leveled. 27 men, including yourself, your colleagues, decided to take on a conventional army with infantry, with the Air Force, with the Navy. And here we are. So you too, in the 21st century, you have to look for novel ideas that can really cause change.
Well,
because
I'm surprised that you think that what was done in Ruwero was novel. It wasn't.
Well, it was novel by then, they did it.
Protracted armed struggle is as old, you know, guerrilla warfare is as old as human beings.
Well, at that time, there was no guerrilla, you know, struggle in Africa that had actually given success.
Of course, they're aware. This was not the first one. But having said that, you know, what you need to appreciate is that that war in which I participated did not achieve its objective. We cannot replicate something that has failed.
I'm not even saying that. I'm saying you have to look in the 21st century for another novel idea, or, you know, some kind of a tool that can bring you. Because what you've been doing, we seem to be stagnating now.
At least.
We seem to be stunted.
At least I am presenting a plan which me and all my colleagues have thought about, have internalized, have conviction that it works. We have not stopped any other Ugandan, as I have told you, from doing the same. Let them present their own plans. Our plan, as I have told you, has three elements. One is, first of all, to get all Ugandans to understand that we are captive. That we are captive of people who use violence and force to control our power, to control our wealth, to control our decision making, to be our judges. We are controlled by a few violent armed people. And the struggle is to defeat these armed people, subordinate their guns to our will. That is the struggle. Some people think that the struggle is a different one. So we have to influence the formation of people's will, of people's understanding on what it is, what is the problem. You know, some people even think that there is actually a democratic dispensation in Uganda. There are parties, there are political parties contesting, there are regular elections, and people can go and express themselves. It's as if they forget that there was a multi-party dispensation in 1980 when Mr. Museveni himself went to the bush. It's like they have forgotten that having parties and having elections does not mean that people have power. You know? So that is the first stage, that we have a critical mass of Ugandans who understand the problem. The second stage is that this mass of Ugandans who understand their captive situation develop organizational capacity, competencies amongst themselves, so that they are able to act together. They are able to speak together, to say, this we don't want, this we are going to do, and to be able to do it. Now that requires effort in terms of empowering our citizens with competencies, with capacity to organize, to develop leaders at all levels from the grassroots, that you have leaders that can coordinate our people to be able to work and act together. It takes time. And mark you, as I'm telling you what needs to be done, the people we want to get rid of are working overtime to make sure that what we want to done is not done. They are fighting back. That's why it's a struggle. They will not allow us to pass our information to the people. That's why they will not allow a meeting in Nambole. That's why they will not allow us to hold meetings anywhere in the country. That's why they will not allow me to be on the radio to give information. So it's a struggle. And I know that in spite of that, what I expect, the blockages I expect, it is incumbent upon us to find ways, creative ways of getting the information to the people, nonetheless. So that is the first thing. Secondly, in organizing and creating leaderships, you build and they break. Because if you build an organized society, they know that they are finished. So they will fight using every tool to make sure you don't organize, to make sure they divide you and cause you to fight yourselves. That started from the time of the colonial rule, divide and rule. So we have to creatively overcome all these challenges, have a conscious population, have an organized population, and then it's that population that can take actions that will defeat the dictator.
You know, what you're telling me, Dr. Besigye, is the desirable on your side, what you want to do. But for somebody who's been watching you, with all respect, you seem to be moving in circles.
So, you know, I have told you that moving in circles sometimes is necessary. And if you don't want to move in circles, I don't hold anybody captive to move him in a circle. If you want to move straight, you go straight. If you want to follow what we are doing, come and we go and we will get there. Because look at where we started. In 2001, when we took on openly to challenge what had clearly become a betrayal of our struggle.
At the time of the reform agenda?
Yes, because it was very clear that Mr. Museveni had totally betrayed what hundreds of thousands of people had died for. And there had been a lot of talk internally until we said from 1999 that no, this we must challenge now. 2001, there were no parties even allowed. Even to say I am forming a party, I have a party meeting, it was not allowed. It has been won through struggle. It was won through what happened in the election of 2001. 2001 was the most violent election, held on what they called individual merit. I entered that election just 3 months before the election. But we were able to expose the rot, and that's where the conscientization began. We went to the Supreme Court and showed how this election was a total fraud. And all the judges of the Supreme Court agreed with us that this was not a free and fair election. So all this has been accumulating. In 2006, I was nominated from Ruzira prison, charged with rape, with treason, with terrorism, with illegal possession of guns. I was in Ruzira prison when I was nominated in 2006, just having come back from South Africa. But that notwithstanding, when I got bail in January, the election was at the beginning of February, we were able to move the country and cause such a strong, strong impact that indeed now the 7 judges of the Supreme Court condemned the election outright. So people, more and more people have been awakened. In 2016, I'm sure you saw a totally different citizenry. 2016 is the first election, I believe, in our entire history when Ugandans were openly and throughout the whole country giving us money and resources to fight for them.
I saw that.
Right from Nambole, where we were nominated. By the time I got to Nachivuba, I had the sacks of money. That is it. That shows you that something has changed amongst the people. And indeed, Mr. Museveni had to now come in and openly, undertake a coup.
What you're narrating actually tells me that elections are not going to help. In fact, you are confirming more the words you have said before, that elections cannot cause regime change in Uganda. And just a few days ago, because that, when you said that, you sounded like a lone voice, but now you've got company, because I've had the President General of the Democratic Party also picking your word, saying that election is not going to be the thing. So progressively, maybe you have confused your people to think, but what is going to be the...
So I have told you...
because elections have not given you...
I have told you what our trajectory is. Have a conscious population, organized, and fight for their right, for their power to come back. Fight how? We have very clearly said, non-violently. Fight Now, non-violent struggle is something that possibly young people don't appreciate here in this country, because since independence, all changes have been by violent struggle. Mm-hmm. But before independence, what actually defeated the colonial administration was non-violent struggle. The pre-independence actors, struggleists, did not take up arms. They used boycott, they used protest, they used until those who held power realized that they could not maintain the status quo and had to change. So this is the approach that we have defined for ourselves. Now, and we have very clearly said that although we believe that an election in and of itself, just an election organized by a junta like this, in and of itself will not cause the change, but that it's not without value, that an election still has value when it happens. Because it's not that they enjoy it happening even. The reason they organize it is a trade-off. They organize it so that they may maintain some level of legitimacy in the world, because the world no longer tolerates those who don't hold elections at all. So they are compared. It's not their wish. If it was Museveni's liking, he would be like Amin. He would declare himself life president and create his monarchy outright. Now that he is compelled to organize an election, there is a risk in the election that he must deal with. And we can use that aperture, that opening, to advance the people's struggle that I'm talking about. It's an opening that will help us to broaden further people's understanding, to get them to be more confident, to be less fearful, and to be more organized. And once we achieve that, then whether through the election or outside the election, people can deliver change.
Dr. Kizza Besigye, you can hold on to your point there because you're going to take a break. And when we come back, let's try to drill deep into these issues, including IPOD, including whether you're likely to go to court because the Daily Monitor exposed a gentleman in the police force whom they claim has been your torment and the torment of the opposition for a long time. Are you taking him to court? Personally, what is your strategy towards that? We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Amara. My guest tonight is Dr. Kizza Besigye, and we're discussing the bumpy road, I should say, to 2021. And we've seen now FDC running battle with the police and the military, and what we saw in Kireka a couple of days ago was quite scary. And there was this gentleman in a police uniform who came and, and broke your car, sprayed tear gas on your face, and before that a water cannon was gushed at you at high velocity. But these individuals who have now been singled out, donning the Uganda police uniform, do we see you or FDC taking them individually to courts of law?
Yeah, well, first of all, like I said, understand why they do what they do on behalf of their masters. It is to cripple us, of course, but more importantly than crippling the leaders is to paralyze the population, is to terrorize, to cause chill.
Intimidate?
Yes, to cause chill in the population. For you, Patrick, to say, oh, if I was following Besigye and that is happening to him, what chance do I have? And you run and say, things are now too bad. You hide. That's the intention. And that's why, some people, some I've been getting some friends asking me, don't you feel pain where you fail? Don't you do this? Why don't you rest? And so on and so forth. You may feel pain, but I think it's incumbent upon us to really give confidence to our people that they should not chill, that we must stand up. That's what it will take. We must persevere through this kind of painful process.
So this is something you are prepared to fight for.
Now,
even if it means to die, you will die in this struggle.
I mean, absolutely. And anybody who, first of all, you see, it's ridiculous really to fear to die for your rights, because you are going to die anyway. Let me tell you, in 2001, 1999, 2000, 2001, when I started open challenge of the regime, I received a lot of threats. Some public, some private, we are going to kill you, you are going to be isolated, and, we shall crush you. Those threats were in the media. Many of the people who were threatening me are long, long gone. They died a long time ago. I'm still here, So, fear, is... even when we went to the bush, people feared to go to the bush. By the time we came back, they were dead, So, for me, I believe, first of all, I believe in God, and that God really is the protector and the determiner of when life stops.
Your destiny.
Absolutely. So, going back to the question of those who commit these heinous crimes, we shall pursue them. Not after the struggle, but now. Because the crimes they are committing are not just crimes against the person just like all crime anyway. If I slap you, it's a crime against Uganda. It is Uganda versus you. Crime is a collective kind of offense. And so now there are channels through which individual offenders can be made to account. Even within the current legal jurisdiction, of course, whatever has been tried has not been successful. There was an attempt at prosecuting Kayihura, you remember, and the DPP went in and stopped the case. You remember the fellow, the woman, the lady director of CID, Elizabeth Kutesa, who confessed in court under oath to have committed crimes and manipulated police records in order to incriminate me. Elizabeth Kutesa confessed in court under oath to committing very serious crimes. I tried to prosecute Elizabeth Kutesa. The DPP came in and stopped the thing. There are avenues when that happens, when local jurisdictions cannot handle offenders. There are avenues to pursue them through other jurisdictions. And we are not going to stop. We shall try the local jurisdictions, we shall try international jurisdictions and pursue these. Not the ones who fire the cannons directly, or Mr. Agero, who was violent the other time and has been violent around me for some time.
You want to go for their commanders?
But also their commanders, right from Mr. Museveni.
So you are keeping a file of sorts, maybe ready for the ICC, something like that?
Well, we shall soon be, showing the way we are going to go with these people. But we shall definitely pursue them, and the country should pursue them. As I have said, these are not crimes just against a person. They are crimes against humanity. Every human being should be concerned about the kind of violent people that hold authority in this country. And we should definitely take them on as a
Dr.
society.
Besigye, there are many people who are saying these days that really the opposition should be pulling in one direction, will be working more together, have a lot of cohesion. But that is, has eluded, cohesion has eluded the opposition politicians in this country. Why?
Well, first of all, as I have pointed out to you, it's not surprising, because that's why we call this a struggle. I've told you that among the 3 steps we must take,
Conscientize the people.
Organizing people to act together is the strength that breaks the back of the dictator. And the dictator will not see that happen easily. He will do, or he or she will do.
Are you suggesting among yourselves you have been compromised by the dictator? By what you call the dictator?
No doubt that they will do everything in their power to make unity difficult. And by the way, there are departments, large departments now in the government under the political department of internal security organization for doing that work, for causing confusion amongst us and so on. And they because fortunately now, all the security systems are dysfunctional. There is no doubt about that. Mr. Museveni is rightly worried about the Kawukumi. Kawukumi is everywhere in all his Kawukumi, the weevil. Is everywhere.
But if there's Kawukumi in the government, if there are cracks in the NRM government or NRM party, there are huge gullies in the opposition.
Yes.
They are huge.
So what I'm saying is,
there are huge cracks in your own.
Yes.
Your own party president defected and created his own.
You see,
so that's a house not in order.
No, first of all, you should distinguish association and unity. Being united doesn't mean that you must be in the same organization. Absolutely not. That's why the right to associate is an important right. You associate, you disassociate. But all of us who have the same objective of liberation, regardless of what formation you are in, we need to then coherently work together to pursue that objective.
But that is not happening.
Well, it is happening. You see, it is always a question of where you focus. Let me tell you, for example, take the example of elections. At no election at all have we had unity so that we filled a single candidate, pro-change candidate. Never. In 2001, there were many candidates. Agura Awori of UPC, there was Bwenje, who was then Secretary General of DP and had claimed to become President General of DP. There were, Chibirige Mayanja, there were many candidates. In 2006, there were many candidates. Sebana Kizito, there was Mama Miri Obote, there was, I think again there was a Jema candidate, there were many candidates. And at every election it has been like that. But the people of Uganda, of different persuasions, have always united. Always. The people who are, seeking, because there is a confusion, you see, which the people of Uganda are ahead of us on. The confusion being whether we are competing for office, whether that is the struggle, whether the struggle is supremacy of leaders. And this is real confusion amongst us.
Yeah, but you need clarity.
Yes, so you'll find many amongst us are contesting for office. But the people of Uganda are contesting for their power, for their country. They want control over their country. They are not interested in us.
Who becomes
what? They are not interested. They are interested in their country and their power.
And how do you arrive to that?
So this is what I'm telling you. So even when confusion still reigns amongst us, and some people think that you can have, power of a dictator, one of the power of the dictator, what it does, is that it can create a political party, can create a candidate, and which are candidates of...
So Dr. Besigye, you are suggesting that amongst the presidential candidates and the parties that we have, some of them are creations of the NRM?
Maybe not, but some indeed campaign for NRM. In the last election, we had the UPC president campaigning for NRM. So some indeed get whatever persuasions they change, but the people, the ordinary people whom those parties represent, don't go with them. This is what I'm telling you. And that is the hope that we have. And our conscientization, what I was talking about, conscientization, getting people to know what the problem of the country is, that the problem of the country is not looking for a good leader or to replace a bad leader. No, that's not the problem of the country. The problem of the country is getting powerful people that will ensure a good leader. So that if there is a bad leader for any reason, they have power to throw that bad leader out.
If the Hoima debacle is anything to go by, I'm talking about the by-election in Hoima, it really showed some cracks between the People Power movement and the Forum for Democratic Change, where you belong.
Well, first of all, I was not very much in Hoima. I only went there once. I think when the election took place, I was even out of the country. I have explained to you my lack of enthusiasm about elections generally, and especially elections of MPs and so on. Even now we have many MPs in Parliament. Frankly, sometimes you fail to know whether there is a distinction amongst all these many MPs. So unless the structure of the struggle is clarified, there's still confusion. There's still confusion.
But really, the thing is, there has been a collusion course between FDC and the People Power movement in the recent days, in the recent past.
You see, it will...
And you will need to
do
the patch-up work, and I don't know whether you've done that.
No, you see, it will not end. It will not end, whether it is between People Power and FDC, even before People Power, between DP and FDC, there was always collision between UPC and other. So it will not, because you see, you have to understand two things. One is that there is legitimate competition between these groups, even if we are seeking change at the national level, we stand for different things, and that's why we are in different organizations. So there is legitimate competition, and people field different candidates, and they have different interests. And so that must be understood as a legitimate process of contestation amongst ourselves. But secondly, I have told you that when that opportunity arises, an opportunity where we have to compete amongst ourselves, it is quite often taken advantage of by the junta itself to foment and cause conflict. That is
your fallback position for the weakness in your own opposition. You always have to point to the junta.
I'm not pointing it to the junta because it's going to help us by doing so. It's because it's a reality. It's a reality that the junta operates, and it's not just here, it's everywhere. So they will, dress up some people as FDC and cause them to throw stones at other people. And other people say, why are FDC attacking us? They also attack. They clothe people with red caps and cause them to throw stones at others. And so we must be sophisticated. And that's part of the conscientization. We who are in the struggle must be sophisticated to know a primary struggle and a secondary struggle. So even if there is competition amongst us should not divert us from the main struggle. Okay. Secondly, we must appreciate that there will be infiltrators. For example, I have very clearly said, and sometimes, even at the risk of being misunderstood by our own, people whom we work with, I have very clearly said that if you are a supporter of the people's government, you should not attack other people who are in pro-change forces, even if they attack us. If they have made a serious attack, just defend yourself. Say, this is not true, the truth is this. Don't counterattack. Just defend yourself. Don't counterattack. Anybody who attacks anybody amongst the forces of change is unhelpful. In fact, he is inimical to the struggle. We must maintain our focus on the main problem. If they are throwing stones at us, just erect defenses and continue fighting that way. If you start fighting on the sides, you'll get totally diverted, and that's the intention of those who want to maintain power. So we must understand that these sort of conflicts that we see partly are rooted in legitimate competition, because already there are many candidates in every constituency, even from the same platform, who are fighting. You forget about different ones. So that is legitimate competition.
Okay.
But secondly, we must understand that there is enemy action.
But you also,
and because
but also in your words, Dr. Besigye, you're trying to play diplomatic. You're trying to, in any way, sanitize the problem that it is. There's serious crack happening.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Some people
would call it legitimate competition, but there's real fight.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Fighting between who? I have perfectly cordial relations with all the leaders, with Norbert Mao, with my brother Bob Wine, with General Mugisha Muntu, even whom you said left FDC. I have absolutely no problem with him. And we talk freely and exchange and strategize together. Some of the people who claim to be our supporters, this is what I was telling you, some of them, under the guise of those claims, quite often are plants that then want to cause that confusion. But we must simply be more sophisticated. than the junta, and maintain our purpose, maintain our cohesion in pursuing change that the people of Uganda need. And if we don't, you see, the good thing, why, for example, some of us, like in the people's government, we have spent a lot of time engaging the population and giving them this information. We've given them a lot of information, they are aware. If we are confused, they move on their own. Okay. That's the whole purpose. They don't have to rely on us to cause change.
All right, Dr. Kizza Besigye, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, I'll open the lines that you two at home or wherever you are, you can be a part of this discussion. You'll see the numbers on your screen. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Amara. My guest tonight is Dr. Kizza Besigye, and we are discussing the road to 2021, and it appears it is bumpy, it is rough, and it is tough. We heard from the Minister of Internal Affairs, the Honorable Besigye Kanya, and this is what he had to say about politicians. Apparently the politicians, according to him, are not respecting the men in uniform. Honorable Besigye Kanya.
The most unfortunate thing in this country, compared with even the neighboring countries in this region, and in the whole world, is the disrespect to the law enforcement officers, in this case the police. That uniform the police wear is not a personal thing. It should be respected in the first instance. Even if a policeman is poorly educated, is poorly paid, the first thing is to say, okay, he is there by law. Why should you, a senior citizen, want to fight physically with that policeman? Why? Really?
Honorable Besigye Kanya there. Well, you've heard him. I wonder what your response would be.
Well, you see, I entirely agree that, you know, men in uniform deserve respect. But they must be doing what they are required to do under the law for that respect to accrue. You know, men in uniform must be exemplary. Actually, they must follow the law scrupulously. They are law enforcers. They must be following the law. I always have big quarrels with them myself. After they detain me, they just take me and throw me in cells. Nobody has told me why I have been arrested, what my rights are, and what I should expect, you know, which is what the law provides. So we have people in uniform here, a great number of whom have no idea what their mandate is, have no interest even in pursuing that mandate, are simply tools of the same politicians he's talking about, who cause them to do all kinds of terrible things. If you have a commander-in-chief who himself is a lawbreaker, has become a commander-in-chief by fraud, what kind of command then do you expect under that person? When you have a commander-in-chief who is corrupt and is publicly flouted to be corrupt, he is in court and there is tons of evidence of his corruption, what do you expect under that commander-in-chief? So the problem we have, yes, is from politicians who control the men in uniform, to start with, that are not able to cause a disciplined force. Today we have all these poor policemen. They are all hungry. They are not paid. If you see where they sleep, their children They also are entitled to a decent life, you know. So if you have somebody like that sleeping under the rain in a shack called the house, changing positions at night with his children in one room, that policeman, if you meet them, sometimes when they are so angry and violent, I sometimes understand where they are coming from, you know. So, you know, what this junta minister is saying is extremely shallow.
Okay, let me call for the lines so that we can have some people who have ideas. Either they agree or disagree with you, and they tell us what they think about where we're headed and the events they've been seeing happening in our country lately. I have a call online. Hello. Hello.
Hello, Patrick.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Good evening. I'm called Peter, calling from Palisa.
Peter in Palisa, you're on air, sir.
I really congratulate Dr. Besigye for the struggle he has gone through. As he has rightly said, he has fought so many battles and has won what? Has won very many as well. I remember when he started the struggle, personally I was in Makere. At that time, the NRM government had cost of government scholarship. But he came and said, no, this is a public university. I will double. When President Museveni came to campaign at Freedom Square, he said, I'll give you 4,000. So he shook the tree. He shook the mango tree and the mango was fell down.
And Peter in Palisa had to eat.
Hello?
Okay, he shook the tree and the mango came down and Peter enjoyed.
And the mangoes came down. The government had come out clear they were scrapping off government scholarship. When he came in Nkrumah Quadrangle and he said, you people, me with my government, I will double. When Museveni came to Freedom Square and said, no, I will give you 4,000. He has exposed a lot of corruption in the government and somehow is putting them to check.
All right.
So whether he takes over power as the president or not, for us as citizens of Uganda, we benefited from the struggle. Thank you very much, Dr. Besigye.
Thank you very much, Peter, our caller there calling in from Palisa. I'm going to take another caller, and if you can also be as brief and precise as perhaps Peter, that will be okay, so that we can maybe... All right, I have a caller online. Hello. Okay, I'm going to... Good evening.
Good evening to you.
What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm called Sally. I'm calling from Gulu.
Sally in Gulu, you're on air.
Thank you, sir. What I want to tell Mr. Besigye
Yes.
is that Chagwan is here to relieve of him the tear gas, the scuffles with the police. We wish
Your question was not very clear, Mike.
I understood it.
You understood? Oh, okay, that's good. I didn't want to start interpreting a question that I didn't get very clear, but if you did, then that's okay. You'll be able to respond to it. Let me try to take another call online. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Junior.
Yes, Junior.
Calling from Mengo.
Junior in Mengo, you're on air.
I'll send greetings to Mr. Besigye.
Okay.
Telling him that we are with him.
All right. It is as simple as that. Junior in Mengo, thank you very much. Let me go to another call online. I have a caller. Hello. Hello. All right. I think we're not be able to pick that line, so we're going to try another. Hello. Okay. Just one more trial, and then we let the Dr. Besigye respond to your comments or question. I have a call online. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
The name is called Mugisha David. I'm calling from Kabale.
Mugisha, you are in Kabale on air, sir.
Yeah, well, the issue on your conversation.
Yes.
Yeah, I want just to assist my men in uniform like me. Mr. Besigye is a momentum opponent. Besigye is not an enemy.
Besigye is not an enemy.
He is a momentum opponent. Who is a momentum opponent in the public order management? This is a person who is aggrieved of a certain issue. When it is solved, he goes back to his home and does his business.
Okay.
If I go back on the issue of the police officer, this Mr. Agero, who conducted himself in an irregular manner. It was not necessary for Mr. Agero to go and smash the vehicle of an opposition person. Now, when you are to carry out laws of public order management, you need to first consider the following. Is the action you are taking necessary? Is it equal to what you are doing?
Okay.
What about the accountability?
Okay.
Those are the mistakes of the officer which he committed, because he had his maybe selfish interest somewhere, and which I don't know.
Okay. Let me ask, if you allow, with all respect, what is your background?
Yes.
What is your background, sir?
My background.
Yes.
I happen to be also among the security personnel.
Okay. All right. Okay.
But,
I was not expecting something less. All right. All right.
Actually, his actions was his, because he wrote about the necessity, the equality, the equality
All right.
of the action which you do.
Our caller from Kabale. Our caller. Yes, our caller from Kabale. Thank you very much. You have added value to our show, and thank you very much. Let me just take one more caller. My producer is telling me the quite a number of you would want to make your contributions. If we can, and if this line is okay, I'll be able to pick your call. Hello. 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 I have a call line. Hello.
Yes, please.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Yes, I'm calling from Ginger.
And what's your name, sir? Oh, it's a pity. We seem to have lost the line to that caller in Ginger, and, well, we will not be able to pick any more calls, unfortunately. But, Dr. Besigye, at least we've been able to get somebody in Palisa, in Ginger, in Gulu, in Kabale, and in Kampala.
Yes, thank you very much, and I am grateful to all those who took off their time to join in the conversation this evening. Peter is the first caller was right that even though the change that we have been fighting for, where Ugandans would take charge of their country, has not yet been achieved, a lot of changes positive changes have happened as a result of that ongoing struggle.
Okay.
Changes in policy, changes in how people are treated, and so on and so forth. A lot of changes have happened, and I wouldn't like to, I don't have time to go through them. I think the very early one was when citizens that were being forced to flee from their homes due to graduated tax can now, be treated with respect, and so on and so forth. There was a Sali who said that Kyagulanyi should relieve me of the tear gas. I will be extremely happy. Nobody enjoys it. And why Kyagulanyi? Even you, Sali. Why do you send others? You come to the tear gas. A struggle is not something enjoyable. It's not something that is without a cost. In fact, it has a very stiff cost to the person involved in the struggle, to the family, to relatives. It has a huge cost. And therefore, any relief is welcome.
Okay.
But let me say this, that a struggle needs everybody. This is a people's struggle. It's not a Besigye struggle. So that Besigye is relieved and another one comes in. It's a people's struggle, and everybody should participate at the level they are able to. Everybody doesn't have to come to tear gas to contribute to the struggle. No. You can write in a newspaper, you can do what you can in the course of the struggle, but do something. And therefore, we shouldn't have people being encouraged to leave. We should encourage more people to come, but not some to leave. Everybody is necessary in the struggle, whether old or young or whatever, everybody should remain in the struggle. But if somebody wants to take leadership of the struggle and go ahead, I'm very happy to let people, be the ones to get cannoned by that water and so on. There is absolutely no problem. Junior was just thanking, and the last caller was the man from Kabale, who I think had one point correct about the misjudgment and misapplication of power by his colleagues who are in service in the security. But where he is wrong is my grievance. Certainly my grievance is not a personal grievance, that if it is solved, I go away. No. My grievance is a grievance that is common to all of us, including to him. And so it must be, yes, if it is solved, that common grievance, if our power returns, then yes. Now, to sum up, I think where we are as a country and why all this is happening, the violence, the attacks on all kinds of people, students, journalists, women, the reason all this is happening is that we have strayed from the constitutional path. Uganda is very clearly in constitutional wilderness. We no longer follow the rule of law. People with power act with impunity, do whatever they want, no accountability. And that is why recently we focused the whole country on what we consider to be the remaining important provision of the Constitution, Article 3. Article 3 of our Constitution says when the constitutional...
We have to defend it.
Yes, when we are in a constitutional wilderness, then it becomes a duty, not just a right. It's the duty of every citizen, including you, my brother. It's your duty to do everything in your power to make sure that the country is returned to the constitutional rails. And that is what we are embarking on right now.
All right.
We have called for a national convention where actions, because as we said a long time ago, that this is the year of action. Some people have been saying the year is ending, where are the actions? And that is largely because they have not appreciated that the 3-point step that we talked about: conscientization, organization, action. It means we have successfully achieved the first two to a reasonable extent. We are now on the third one. And the third one starts 2019. It does not stop. Let nobody be confused. It does not stop until the objective of the struggle is achieved. And I would like to reckon that it is not far. Because, let me tell you, only God knows when power will change. Nobody can claim to know. But just like we don't know when it will rain. But surely you can, meteorologists can say 70%, 60 to 70% it may rain. They don't know whether it will rain at 2:30, at 3, or at 4, but they say it will rain. Only God knows exactly when the drops will actually be on the ground. I think everybody who has been following Uganda's politics can see the clouds that are gathering at a high speed. We don't know when it will rain, but for sure it will rain. What we only need to do, like myself I do, is to wake up every morning to do what you need to do to cause that change to come as quickly as it can.
All right.
And I will continue waking up early, whether tear gassed, whether whatever, unless I am out of breath. I will continue working to make sure that change comes to our country.
As we concluded, we want to know, there has been a standoff at IPOD with the DP refusing to hand over to FDC because that FDC is likely to run down the organization because you have sort of stood at a different, levels of ideals. You're fully not subscribed to the ideals of IPOD. I wonder what you make of that.
Well, actually, I've not been paying much attention to it. As you know, I am not in the leadership of FDC, and frankly, I'm not very excited about IPOD. I think IPOD served its role a long time ago. It should have wound up. The purpose of IPOD was very noble, to engender dialogue amongst the parties that can lead to a transition to a democratic dispensation. So the operative word there is a transition that can cause a transition. In other words, IPOD, where it succeeded, and it succeeded in some countries, in Malawi, in Ghana, where it appreciated, there was an appreciation that they were in a non-democratic sphere and they needed to move to democratic control, and that they could dialogue, they could converse and see what changes are important to make to have that transition. Here, it has served the opposite purpose. It is a mechanism of containment, just to keep people on the table, drinking tea and so on, but never moving anywhere. It has been going on for many, many years. So the only agenda, to my mind, if it is to be of any purpose at all, must be to focus on transition.
All right.
What needs to be done to end gun rule and go to people rule.
All right. Probably I wouldn't forget, through you, we would like to congratulate your wife, Winnie, for having taken up a very big international job to be at the seat of the United. Did she? So congratulations to her through you. And
well, thank you very much, and I think UNAIDS will do well to use her long experience and competencies at my expense.
But did she have? Okay.
She, I think, came in as an outsider. UNAIDS is a multidisciplinary kind of organization, medical, social spheres, and the NGOs and so on. I think it's going to be a challenging
That's a big
role for her.
Did she have to get endorsement from the government you so much oppose?
Well, I understand that at the end of the day, at certain levels in the UN, you occupy a quota that countries must consent to. Okay. So I understand that the Uganda government did not oppose her appointment. I am not grateful to the Uganda government at all. I wouldn't care less whether they endorsed or didn't endorse. I have absolutely no... I don't recognize the government, as you know. I stand at totally different points.
That's a tough one.
No, I don't recognize this,
right.
This junta at all.
Dr. Besigye, Dr. Besigye, thank you very much for your time, and we appreciate your insights on the matter and your struggle. And if I've picked one thing from Dr. Besigye, is that perhaps you as an individual, you'd be able to ask yourself, what can you do where you are? And maybe with your passion and your position, you could cause change, whether in FDC or in NRM or whatever you're doing. With your passion and your position, you can do something where you are for a better of our country. Good night and God bless Uganda.